Three, two, we're live. Jack, we're live again. Episode 3.
Let's go. Episode 3 already of the No One Told Me Hockey Podcast. Time flies when you're having fun. We're already on episode 3, which is kind of crazy because I feel like we recorded episode 1 yesterday. How you doing today? How you doing today? Give me the rundown on the day.
I'm doing pretty good. I am back at my apartment after a long day at the rink. Did a little video with the guys. We had practice, which was nice. And then a little men's league to cap off the night.
How was men's league? Did we get a win?
We got a loss, a big L in the L column. I played pretty good, facilitated some offense. I can't say my defense was too good tonight, though.
So when you play men's league, are you trying to pass first or are you a shot first kind of guy?
It's interesting. The league's actually like really good. So my D partner played at Providence and
decent D partner. Okay.
Yeah, pretty good. And then one of my other teammates went to Niagara and another one went to UNH. So it's a great group of guys.
Okay. How about the opponents that you play? Kind of same thing?
Same thing. A range of Division 1 to Division 3, but it's been great. I mean, it's a nice way to meet friends, to be honest.
Yeah, because you're kind of living out like in an area right now that you don't know. I mean, you went to school out on the East Coast, but now you're kind of living in an area outside of where you went to school now. So you're kind of in a transition period of meeting new people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like being on a sports team always helps you meet new people. Are you doing, because you're in Utah now.
Yep.
We had talked in an earlier episode. You're doing a men's league too.
Yeah, so I play. So actually, I'll go through kind of how I got on the men's league because it was super random. But so in the summer, I was living in Milwaukee, and I was working at a golf course, and not that has anything to do with it, but I knew I was moving out to Utah, and so I knew I wanted to play hockey out here. So I went on like the Utah County whatever ice rink page, and I found like the men's league on there, and I found the guy who was running it. I got his email. So I emailed him and I was like, hey, can you put, and there's like, I saw the divisions. It was like, whatever, Division 1 through 5. And I was like, hey, can you put me in contact with the Division 1 managers or whatever? And he's like, yeah, sure. So he sent me all the emails of all the guys or the phone numbers. And I texted them all. And
I love it.
Yeah, this guy, one of the guys reached back out to me and he's like the nicest guy ever, like so welcoming me. And so I got on their men's league team from texting them, and it's been good ever since. Yeah, like you said, it's a good way to meet people in an area where you don't necessarily know anyone.
So I love it. We did something similar. I did something similar. I just went online and searched like men's league near me.
Mm-hmm.
And I found one called the PPHL, the Power Play Hockey League. And
they call a lot of penalties.
They do. They call some penalties. He's a great ref. His name's Mike. He's awesome.
Uh-huh.
He refs all the games. And I put my information in there, and then one of the team captains like called me at nighttime and was like, hey, like, you want to join us tonight? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, and then I mean, this is weeks ago now.
Right. So you didn't know anyone like on the men's league team before you got there?
Dude, I didn't know anybody. And then on the bench, one of my good friends, the kid who went to Providence, I've been good friends with since I was like a U16. This guy walks onto the bench. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is going on? He's like, Fletch, what are you doing here?
Yeah, right. So random. Hockey world's so small. Like no matter where you go, it's like you can always find someone that knows someone or you know each other. It's so small.
Yep. Yeah, everybody knows everybody. That's why you always got to say good things. You never know who's watching. You never know who's listening.
True. Yeah, so we had a men's league game last night. I feel like we've probably played now 12 games, maybe, yeah, probably around 12. We got our 3rd win of the season now.
There we go.
So, we're one of those teams where like we got really good skill, but then like only 2 guys play defense.
Yes, the D, that is where we struggle as well. It's like offense, we're buzzing. It's like a 5-on-1 coming back after.
Right. I was talking to this guy on the bench yesterday, and we were talking about how we have really good offense, but then our defense lacks. And he was like, yeah, honestly, the team that wins men's league is like the one that can simplify it the most and not try to do anything crazy.
I've never heard this as a verb before, but one of the first games we played a crew of older guys. Like a lot of these guys had played D1 or D3. Like they were all ex-players. One guy actually played for the Bruins.
Oh,
and at the end of the game, they beat us like 5-2. And the locker room talk was they out men's leagued us.
Oh,
like they knew. Yes, they knew exactly what to do.
Dude, the same thing. Have you ever played like softball, like men's league softball? Same thing, dude. Like the old guys will just outsmart you in softball all day. Like they can put the ball where they want to. They can, pitch however they just got all these little techniques that will like beat like young athletes who like play baseball their whole life. And it's just like they out men's league them.
I love it. I love it. But speaking of meeting friends, it sounds like you got some buddies coming over pretty soon, right?
Yeah, so my not people that I played hockey with, but my good friends since like elementary school. I have like five really good friends, and three of them are flying out tomorrow night. So I'm picking them up from the airport, and then they're here all the way till Sunday. So we're going skiing on Thursday, and then skiing slash snowboarding. They snowboard, and then we're also going again on Saturday. So it's going to be super fun. Two of them are debatable at snowboarding, so that should be interesting. And the one's only snowboarded out in like Wisconsin. So this is going to be a totally different animal for him. So
that is going to be
wait.
awesome. That is going to be awesome. I haven't been. I think I went skiing a long time ago. My mom actually just went skiing this past weekend. She said it was great. So I'm jealous of your frequent skiing.
Right, because like I remember growing up, I used to snowboard up until like I was like 10 years old, and then I remember I went off a jump and I hit my head hard. I had a helmet on, but I still hit it really hard, and I was like, God damn, that hurt. So then like as the year went on, I started getting a little bit more serious into hockey like the next like 2 years. So I stopped snowboarding because I was like, these two hobbies of mine just don't work together. So I had to stop. So now that
I've
I'm
al-
done with hockey, I picked it back up and I'm skiing now. So it's been
I
awesome.
love it. I've always been like while you're training, like you've always been training for hockey,
Hmm.
like whether you be a bantam or all the way through college, you're always like a little tentative to like do other things when you're taking it so seriously, whether it's like playing basketball or like tennis. Like,
Yeah.
am I going to roll an ankle? Like,
Yeah.
am I going to go
Basketball.
skiing? I'm going to break a leg. Like, so
Hmm.
I've stayed away from it, but now that like I'm out of it and on the other side, it's been fun to like kind of venture into those things.
So when you were like training for hockey and stuff and you were kind of being cautious, like you just said, was there any like hobby that you were interested in but you couldn't do because of hockey being in the way, or like winter sport
That's a good
that you
question.
can name off the top of
That
your head?
that's a good question. I would say that I always wanted, so I can't say I always wanted to. From a young age, I was steered away from football. My
Hmm.
grandpa played football at Maryland. And he always said like it's like too physical for like young kids to play. Being in South Florida, it would have been I mean, that's like a football hotbed.
Right.
Like South Florida football and Texas football are
Big
great.
boys, big boys down there.
Yeah, like the guys in my high school were like committed to like Notre Dame, NC State, Air Force.
Right.
So I wonder like, okay, what if I played like lacrosse or what if I played football? But I'm glad I chose hockey. So
Yeah, honestly, football at a young age, he is right though, because football at a young age, I'm glad they kind of taken, because when I played football my whole life until freshman year of high school, and we were playing tackle football at 6 years old. There's
yeah.
no reason that 6-year-olds should be going head on head collisions like
Have
that.
you ever seen Have you ever seen on Netflix the series Friday Night Tykes?
Yeah, yeah,
It's like a play on of Friday Night Lights, but it's like
yeah.
these little like football players. It's like
Mhm.
youth. I mean, they're like 6, 7, and 8 years old,
Right,
and the coaches are like so intense.
right.
It's a good watch. I don't know if it's still on there,
I don't
but
know
it
if it
was a
is.
good watch at one point.
You know what's getting kind of out of hand too is, so all these youth players and stuff, right? They probably all have social media, or they watch YouTube videos now, so they can kind of see how these professionals carry themselves. But then these players, these youth players, take it to another level, and they look like a creative pro on NHL 22 or like Madden. Like they have every color in the book on them. They got the visor. They got like crazy cleats on going on. I'm like, what happened to youth sports and just being like normal?
I love it. I saw a video today. Actually, it was on Twitter, Barstool Sports Twitter. It was like the caption was like the most outrageous third grade basketball team.
I saw that. I
And
saw that
dude,
today.
these guys are like, I mean, third grade. I don't know how old you are in third grade. 10, less,
Not
not
even. I don't
8.
even
Yeah,
think.
I don't know. Regardless, they're like dancing. They're like doing the most crazy stuff.
He's
But
like, you too little. He was like, you
yeah,
too little.
it's
Dude,
wild. It's wild. I love it
it,
though.
it's getting out of hand, but I mean, it's good also that kids are able to see now, have access to like watch like real time, like
Yeah.
highlights and stuff like that, which I think could help for sure, big time.
No, 100%.
I just got to give us a shout out really quick that this is so me and Fletcher, I have friends coming and he's going on a road trip. So we kind of were on a time constraint to do the podcast. So I got to shout out Fletcher right now because it's going on midnight over on the East Coast and he's still up doing the podcast and he's got a long day tomorrow. So I got to give him a quick shout out for fitting this in with me.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It has been a long day. We did wake up early this morning. I had a good run. I got a good run in with the new, this is a free advertisement for Hoka, the Hoka Clifton 8s.
Oh, wow.
And I have never felt, my knees have never felt better running. So,
actually,
yeah, I swear to God.
How big is the base on those things? Because some Hokas, man,
it's not that bad. It's honestly not that bad. And it's not like I'm rocking them like around the mall. I'm carrying them into the gym and I'm wearing them on the treadmill and I'm taking them off. Like it was I'm putting them on for the sake of my knees.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking them off after.
So that's strictly just a gym shoe. Like
yes.
In shoe.
It's a strictly on treadmill shoe.
Right.
Yes.
You take them off after the treadmill.
I'm not going lunge. Now, I'm not bringing multiple pairs of shoes to the gym.
Multiple pairs at the gym.
But I'm not, if I'm going in for the treads, I'm going in for the treads. I'm not lifting weights in the Cliftons.
Yeah. I don't think you can. That's a little dorky. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't like it really. But I'm not a big fan of like when someone, especially like a grown man, and they go out, say they're out on a date night or something with his wife or whatever, and they have jeans on and like a nice shirt, and then they wear like running shoes like that. Like, I am not a fan. I think you just need to mix it up. Get like a nice dress shoe, comfy, not even a dress shoe, like one of those ones that's like a cross between a dress shoe and a casual shoe.
Like a Cole Haan.
Yeah, like a Cole Haan, exactly. Get one of those, slap that on, and you complete your outfit. It looks 10 times better.
I would say that the only exception is if you're cradling maybe a bad back or you've got bad knees. Agreed. Like, and we need the cushioning. I'm all for it.
Right.
However, the Cole Haans, they're nice. They're nice. Maybe some Sperry's. I don't know if those are still in.
I don't think those are in. I don't think those. Hopefully they're not. Hopefully
maybe they're in for me. I don't know. Maybe I should throw mine out now that you said that.
Do you still have Sperry's?
No. No.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe.
Vans. It's all right. Vans. I'll wear a pair of Vans. So, all right, let's get into the hockey talk here. So, the first thing we want to go over on the show today is dealing with getting scratched. Right? Like, it can be such a difficult thing, especially if you're in your first year of juniors and you're battling during the week for a spot in the lineup, and then you go to Friday night. Sometimes you wait all day to find out if you're playing or not. Sometimes it's great when coaches send it out early, the lineup, and then you battle all week and you find out you're not playing that night. And it can have a serious effect on your mind and kind of your confidence in the coach and what he thinks of you. So I want to get your thoughts on how you deal with getting scratched.
Yeah, it's a great topic. It's a little more mundane of a topic because obviously no one really loves talking about it, but I think it's pretty important to cover because you're going to get scratched at every level. And even the best college players, whether they be the best on their Division III team or the best on their Division I team, if they end up going pro, guess what? Those best players, they start getting scratched at the pro level too. So as you go up, I try to think back to remember like the first time it happened to me. It was after I was cut from Bloomington. I arrived at Springfield and I was scratched like a couple games in. I think I played 2 and then was scratched 2, I think, in a row. But regardless, I would say that the first thing that's most important when this happens is that having that communication with a member on the staff, not necessarily the head coach, but the assistant coaches could play a big role in helping you understand what you did wrong or what you need to do better. Yep. I think that that's probably a better way to frame it. Not going up to the coach and say, hey, coach, what did I do wrong? Rather, hey, coach, what can I do to get myself back in the lineup? Yeah. Now, would you say, what's your opinion on going to?
I just want to add really quick. Like, I think it is really important, instead of going up to the, like when you find out about getting scratched, instead of going up to the head coach right away with you and you're emotional and you're emotionally charged and stuff, it's really important to kind of take a step back, look at it, try to look at it from like a different perspective, And then I personally wouldn't go to the head coach, like you said. I really strongly believe you should go to the assistant coach first and talk to him first, but not when you're emotionally charged. Talk to him when you've been able to process it a little bit too.
Absolutely. I would say that the discussion that happens with the coaches needs to be non-emotional, right? It's a business conversation that you're having with them. So if they post the lineup at 4:40 and the game's at 7 and you walk right into the coach's office at 4:45, right? That's a recipe for disaster. In my opinion, it may work for some coaches, it may work for some players. But I think that letting their emotions die down and then having that conversation maybe on Monday, right? Maybe it's after the weekend.
Right.
I think that could go a long way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, especially like, so if you find out Friday night you get scratched, you find out at 4:30. Yeah, these coaches have a lot going on that night to set up for the game, right? Sometimes they even have to set up like stuff for the actual game too, depending on team. So they have a lot of different things going on. They're trying to prepare for a game. So you going into their office and trying to talk to them, it may leave a bad taste in their mouth about you as a player or something, or not understanding the situation. So yeah, you definitely should wait till Sunday or Monday, I would say.
Now, what would you say is a reason for getting scratched? Why would a coach take a player out of the lineup?
Well, so I think there's two different scenarios, because like getting taken out of the lineup versus like at the start of the season, you might not even be in the lineup to start with, right? So I think we'll just focus on getting taken out of the lineup, because that's probably more of the situation, is like you're playing games and then you get taken out. It can be a lot of things. It can come from practice. It can come from game. It mainly probably comes from game situations. I don't know. That's tough because it could be a multitude of things. I really just think it comes down to maybe like mistakes compiling on top of each other. What do you think? Because I don't know. It can just come from so many different places.
Yeah, I would say that there's probably a couple ways to look at it. And obviously, these could be broken up into several tiers, probably, that would cause someone to be scratched. I would say that when you don't have a lot of equity in the team, so maybe you're a young player, like a freshman, or you just made it to a junior program and the coach doesn't really know really what you're bringing to the table yet, I would say that costly mistakes are going to lead to you being removed from the lineup. That's probably the first tier of an easy reason why you're taken out.
Right.
I would say a second reason would be, and this one's overlooked by a lot of players, is when coaches are putting together lineups, they're looking at the big picture. Like, who are we playing against?
Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm a 6'4", 225-pound defenseman, and we're playing against a team who's averaging maybe under 5'10", and they're a fast team, right? It may not be a game for me to be in the lineup if, and this is obviously if you're a borderline guy, right? If I'm the number 1D and that's my size, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be taken out.
Yeah.
But I remember a conversation that I had with my coach at one point. I think we were playing Army at the time. And I had said, like, hey, like, why was I taken out? Like, I thought I had a good game before. And he had said, like, look, Army's a little bit of a bigger sheet. Like, we went with a smaller decor and you didn't do anything wrong. And you're likely going to be in again next game. But that was the decision that they made for a borderline player at the time. I was a freshman. It was early on in the year.
Yeah.
And that's just what they went with.
Right. And
So
that's good though.
Important.
That's good though that you like went up to the coach, because then you get clarity on it, right? You're not just making scenarios up in your head, because when you don't get clarity on it, your mind can go in so many different directions on what you did wrong, and at the end of the day, it might not be anything that you did wrong, right? Another scenario that I think of getting scratched is if you're maybe like a freshman, right? And you're playing games, but there's also seniors that they want to get in games just because it's their last year. If they're not playing, maybe if you're playing like a middle of the pack team to a lower end team, they might scratch a freshman or two and put in some seniors or some juniors, one to maybe get them some, they only have a couple games left, or just to get them some experience and stuff like that. Or like if another freshman hasn't played much and you guys are playing a little bit weaker of a team, they're going to be more obligated to maybe take out a freshman or a sophomore, versus you're not going to take out, a junior or senior, just because of that age level or age thing.
Now, what time did you guys used to find out whether you were in or out of the lineup?
In college?
Yeah. Well, I guess junior. Let's do junior first.
Okay. So, well, because I had one situation where we didn't find out until we were walking into the locker room. Did that happen in Springfield too?
Yep.
Yeah, so okay, so that happened in Springfield and it happened in Topeka with me too. We wouldn't find out until you walk into the locker room and see if your jersey pretty much is hanging up or not. And
Yep.
that is the worst feeling ever. Because you still have to prepare like you're going into a game all day, but you're so nervous if you don't know if you're playing or not. And
Yep.
it's like a mental bag all day to know if you're playing.
Yeah, I would say for that was my experience in junior, that they gave the lineup pretty close to the game time. If not at game time, you'd walk in, I don't know, say the game's at 7, you're arriving at the rink at around 4:45, 5,
Yeah.
and your numbers were on the board or they weren't.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a freshman or you're an early person, an early guy entering the juniors, like at any time, that's pretty stressful. But as I'd say, right, you have a lot of self-awareness as a player too. There, early on in the week, you have an idea of whether you're going to be in the lineup or not, whether that's based on your past performances or even your practice performances. Like those hold a lot of that holds a lot of value the higher and higher up you go in hockey.
Yeah, I think like one of the most important things in practice is being consistent out there, because I mean, if you're not consistent out there and you're making mistakes, not that mistakes don't happen, right? But if it constantly happens and stuff, coaches pick up on that, and they might not think that you are like mentally engaged or ready for practice. So I mean, every practice, especially at those levels, you have to be ready to go.
I would say that, and this is an underrated trait of a really good hockey player, is that sometimes having a vanilla practice where you're not doing anything horrible and you're not doing anything great in the middle of a season is not the worst thing in the world. If you can show up, have great details, I'm talking calling for passes, hitting the net, stopping at the net, I think that is extremely valuable.
I remember times like when I was in college, just because like in college, like things tend to pile up on top of each other when they do like projects, tests, and all that.
Yeah.
So like some weeks, right, you would be tired from studying for tests or doing projects and stuff, and by the time you get to practice, like that is almost the last thing on your mind because you have just so many different things going on. So I remember like, especially my junior and senior year, I was kind of becoming more aware of this. Is like when I am tired like that and I'm not necessarily feeling it that day, that's like the day where it's like you need to just like every play you make, you just need to be like into like focused and being more aware of kind of the actions you're making. Whereas like if you're having a good day and stuff, it kind of just flows naturally. You don't really have to think about it. But it's those days that you're struggling a little bit more to maybe find energy and stuff, is those days where you kind of have to take it up a notch in terms of dialing in.
Absolutely. I had a really cool parallel moment happen to me the other day when I was a U16 and I was trying to find a program. I toured Shattuck a little bit. I thought about potentially going to Mission or something like that. And I ended up at Omaha. And one of the selling points that the Omaha coach had taught me, and as we were there, he talked about it all the time, was that as a player, and the higher up you go, you can't be a 100%er, like in quotation marks, 100%er, meaning, right, I can't only be at my best when I'm feeling 100%. You need to learn to be your best when you're at 80%, when you're feeling 75%. Like you need to be at your best on those days too. And the parallel moment was during practice the other day, I had a kid come up to me and say, "Coach, like I'm not really feeling it today." And I said, you can't be a 100%er. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I think I struggled with that in juniors actually quite a bit. Like if I wasn't feeling it like on a day, like if, I don't know, whether it be like my body or just my mind, something wasn't 100% there. I I struggled to like be able to put like a good practice or a game together. And then as I don't know, I think in college it was kind of like hockey was kind of like a getaway, from school and stuff. So it was like even if I'm not 100%, I'm just like I'm more happy to be out here, and it was a little bit more enjoyable to be in a December practice or a January practice and kind of be able to have fun with it.
Now our team sports psychologist, Doc Wally, shout out Doc Wally Bizdell, BizdellSportsPsychology.com. He's a great guy. We would ask him, right, guys on the team and team conversation, right? What do you do when you're not at 100%? And one of the tricks that he had said was he called it a 2-minute drill. He said for the next 2 minutes, so you say your practice is from 9 to 10 a.m., say it's your morning practice, and say at 9:17 you recognize, okay, like I'm having a horrible practice and I need to turn this around.
Yeah.
He would say, look at the clock, and he'd say, for the next 2 minutes, be at your best. Call for passes, make the drill great, right? And that's all you got to focus on is 2 minutes. And then guess what? By the end of that 2 minutes, what do you think happens? You're not really looking at that clock anymore. Like now you've turned it around. Yeah. And it was just that initial cue that went a long way. I did it, and I know some other guys on the team did too.
Well, I think like in terms of like those first flow drills that you do at the beginning of practice, if you can really like hone in and be cognizant of like your passes or your footwork or you calling for the puck, like that totally sets you in the right state of mind to be dialed in for like the whole practice. Is like that first drill or two, even though they're like easy drills and stuff, but guys mess up all the time in those flow drills, and they mess up passes. They're putting them in guys' skates and stuff. It's because they're not dialed in. So yeah, like you said, if you can just dial in for a few minutes and be cognizant, that can really set you up like for a solid practice or game in that sense.
Now, when you guys went to college, going back to the scratching situation, because I just want to learn for myself, when did they let you guys know for the lineup in college?
So they let us know for college on Friday night games. They let us know the night before. And then that was usually what it was. And then Saturdays we would get it. We would have a team meeting in the morning, and then they would read off the lineup that morning. What about you guys?
So for us, if it was a home weekend, you'd have your Thursday practice, and they'd tell you after the Thursday practice.
Okay.
And then you'd play Friday, and then you wouldn't know the Saturday lineup until after morning meeting on Saturday. If it was an away trip, you would go on the trip. If you made the trip, you'd go on the trip, and then you would have morning skate Friday, and after morning skate, they would tell you. And then same thing, wait after. So Saturday.
Okay.
After Saturday meeting, they'd tell you Saturday if you're in or not.
So how many, because we did the same thing, how many guys would they bring on road trips?
It depended. I would say, I don't know. It would depend. 25, I don't know, 2 extra D and 3 extra forwards maybe.
Yeah, I think for us, like depending on the location, because if they were close, like within whatever, an hour and a half, and they were just like home and homes, we would bring everyone. But if they were, bus trip overnight, or we were staying overnight somewhere, I think we'd probably bring 24. I would say probably 24, 25. 25, I think. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Now this is another topic that's hard to talk about, but how do you deal with not being brought on the road? That's not an easy one.
So thankfully for me, I played Division III, and I was coming from the NA. So like I was kind of in a good spot to play. I think in my 4 years, minus like getting hurt, I think I got scratched like a total of like 3 times. So I mean, I played pretty much every game. I went on every road trip. So I personally don't know. Did you not go on any road trips like your freshman or sophomore year?
Yeah, so my freshman year, the second weekend, I didn't. Maybe the third weekend. The third weekend, I didn't make the road trip, and I remember I was very disappointed. Right, like you get that emotional rush right away, and this is going to turn into a positive story. But the emotional rush right away is a lot. It's like, man, like why am I even here? Like all my classmates are on the road. I think one classmate stayed back with me, and a couple seniors were actually didn't go either. So I remember I talked to my parents, let the emotions die down. And then I ended up I got out of my comfort zone that weekend and kind of like met people that weren't hockey players. I was like, I got to do something.
Right.
So obviously like I watched my games like on TV at nighttime with the group of guys that stayed back. But I also met other students and like really enjoyed like doing things that I obviously wouldn't be doing if I was on the road trip. But it went a long way because come a senior year, right? What was the first person I texted as a freshman when I found out I wasn't on the road was the captain. So now comes senior year, some freshmen didn't make the road trip. Like now I'm in communication with that person, telling them like, not that I wasn't the captain, but helping them out, right? Saying like, hey, like you're going to get through this. Like it's going to come full circle at some point. Like just keep a good attitude. And I always tell freshmen, your first months of college is going to be a roller coaster. Everything, every little thing, every comment the coach makes, every comment that somebody makes is going to sound like the biggest thing in the world. And then by your senior year, you're not even going to remember that happened.
Just rolls right off your shoulder, not even phased. It's so different for you guys too. It's so different because like you're playing at the Division 1 level, and some of these guys are. I don't know if you had any draft picks on your team, but
Yep.
you did. Did you have any draft picks on your team?
Yeah, we had three.
Okay.
My freshman year, and two, and yeah, that's it. It stayed with two.
Okay. So for you guys, like the stakes are just so much higher, right? Like guys are trying to go pro. Like some of these guys are trying to make like NHL, AHL pushes. Like so
Yep.
this is big deal stuff for them. For us, like playing Division 3, it's a little bit different because I mean, there's some of us who could have gone and played pro, um, but chose not to. Like, when I say pro, it's whatever, maybe like lower end European or like the SPHL. Some EC guys, some guys will make it like out of the Division 3 to the East Coast League, but just like the stakes are just not as high at the Division 3 level in terms of advancement. So yeah, for you guys like getting scratched and stuff and not going on road trips and missing out on playing those games is probably like a whole nother magnitude higher than
Yeah.
being at the Division 3 level.
It's intense. Yeah, it's definitely intense. And I had my fair share of scratches, but I also had my fair share of games too. So
Yeah.
it definitely goes both ways. And I think that the adversity that you face, and this happens in juniors too, like whatever level juniors you're playing, if you're playing juniors, there likely is scratches on your team.
Yeah.
But learning how to deal with that adversity properly, non-emotional, like when you get into the real world, which is going to for everybody at some point, like those are beneficial lessons that you can bring to the table.
Yeah, I think one of the most beneficial things that I've noticed about like transitioning from hockey to being like in the real world and having a boss, which is pretty much similar to a coach, is like your ability to communicate with them is, I don't know, it just feels like at such another level, and it feels comfortable to do it because of the times I've had to go into coach's office and ask them why I'm not playing or what I can do differently in X, Y, and Z situation. So those situations in juniors or college, going into the coach's office, talking about things that might make you uncomfortable, it helps you, I think, so much in the real world. Because when you do have these interviews or meetings and stuff with uh, your bosses, you just feel so much more comfortable and prepared for the situation.
Yeah, it all comes down. We talked about this last podcast too. Like it all comes down it all comes down to learning how to be an effective and efficient communicator.
Yes,
Like
yes.
I think that's huge.
The worst is when someone is talking and they can't like articulate their point and they keep like bouncing around and going off in different directions. Like, let's just get to the point of what we're talking about here. It
Yeah,
drives me nuts.
which I'm sure some people are listening to us being like, these guys can't even get to their point on their
Yeah, right.
podcast.
Who are we to talk?
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Exactly.
too lit.
So I have a good question for you now, right? So we've dealt with getting scratched. So, right, I'm not emotional in my communication with the coach. What tangible steps now, after I've spoken with the coach, can I take to get back into the lineup?
Right. So I think for me, like what was the biggest roadblock was my mental game and my mental state. It wasn't necessarily that I wasn't capable of playing every night. It was more of my mental capability of doing it every night. I was way too inconsistent with my play, and which is why I would get scratched in juniors, especially. I was just way too inconsistent. And I didn't really figure it out until college. And I think we spoke on this last week. But whenever I was playing inconsistent, I just had to simplify as much as I could. So I think if you're getting scratched, because a lot of kids will DM me on my TikTok videos that I make, a lot of kids DM me about, they're getting scratched. Like, how do I handle that? What do I do to get back in the lineup? And I think I want to say like 99% of it is mental. Like you have the skill to be there. That's why you're there. And there's something else minus your skill holding you back. And I think it's the mental side. So I think the best thing that works for me is simplifying it as much as I can. And you got to kind of drown out the noise. It's easy to say now, right? Because we're done with it and stuff. But as much as you can, just try to focus on what you're doing out there every day. What do you think? Because it's a really tough thing to navigate.
Yeah, I would say two things. I would answer this in two parts. One, a very tangible thing, and one a little bit more philosophical. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the tangible aspect is right. Take what your coach says seriously. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you're out of the lineup because your stick on puck hasn't been great and you're not defending well, in practice, right? Make it a point to have a good stick, right? Make it a point to defend well. Don't just go through the motions and remind yourself, oh, like coach said, don't have a good stick, right? Mm-hmm. No, right? Make it a point to work on those things. And you know what? Maybe get one-on-one ice with an assistant. Maybe get out there with the guys at some point and work on it. Okay, that's the more tangible side. Now, the more philosophical side, I would say, is despite being scratched, right? Whether it's 1 game, 2 game, 3 games in a row, your attitude around the team is going to go such a long way. Now, can you be frustrated with your parents on the phone for a limited amount of time? Sure, right? Absolutely. It means you care. But your attitude when it comes to your presentation of yourself at the rink, at the end of the day, and I've said this to some of my other friends and guys who are younger than me in school, was at the end of the day, when we're 40 years old, and even now, right, just out of college, nobody remembers how many goals you scored. Nobody remembers how many assists you had or games, right? They remember the memories you make away from the ice. They remember how good of a teammate you were. That's it.
Yeah, totally agree. I remember because like I have kids to this day who on my college team especially who barely played any games their whole career there. I was freshman with them. So we played all 4 years together and they played probably about a quarter of the games I did, but they had the best attitudes ever. They were the best guys to be around. And at the end of the day, like right now, that's all you care about. You couldn't name a single goal that they had or a single shift that they had. You know what I mean? It really just comes down to the person you are at the end of the day.
Yeah, there are guys in juniors and in college, and I talk to a lot of guys that I've played with, and probably any guy that I've played with I could talk to. Mm-hmm. But the guys that I am closest with are guys with just such good attitudes, and like we're always a good teammate. And you know what? Because at some point in college, over your 4 years, and in junior, whether it be 2 years, 4 years, doesn't matter, right? Something is going to go wrong, whether it be an injury, whether it be love life, whether it be family, health related, right? Yeah. And you're going to need someone, right? So just because you're salty that you're not in the lineup, right, you're going to need someone at some point. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on that, I think.
No, I didn't even think about that one in terms of like how you're acting around the guys and stuff. That if I could go back, I wish I would change that at sometimes about myself. Like I wear things on my face all day and I can't do anything. It's a tough thing to stop especially if you're not aware of it and you're living in the moment. But I think that's a huge point to make, like being around the guys and being, not that you have to be like, hip hip hooray all the time, but not sulking, kind of going with the flow, being with the team, having good positive energy with the guys, not being that guy in the corner who's not having a good time because he's not playing. 1, players pick up on it and they don't want to be around you. And 2, coach notices that and you think he's going to put in a guy in the lineup who has terrible body language during practice, who's not being a team guy in the locker room and stuff. Coaches don't want to play those type of guys.
Now, do you think, and here's a huge, another addition of having a good attitude, right? Coaches ask players, right? How's this guy doing, right? How's he away from the rink, right? Like, do you guys get along? If you're sulking because you're out of the lineup, do you think that somebody's going to step up for you and say, hey, like, actually, I think he should be in, versus this guy is an unreal teammate, right? We as a team want this kid in the lineup, right? That, like, and you're not going to get that if you're all sour that you're out of the lineup for a whole week.
Yep, I totally agree. So I'll give you a quick story. So when I first came in my freshman year, it was like week 1. We had just gotten there. We might have done 1 practice or 2 practice, and there was these 2 kids who came in like they were the best players on earth. Like they deserved to be on the first line and all this. And we were at a house party, and they went up to, I don't know what they said to our captain though. And one of them said something like absurdly cocky to him. And then the other one was just constantly being cocky and like just kind of a dick. And both of those kids didn't make the team because the coach asked our captain, to get his advice on guys and like their attitudes and stuff. And he cut both of those kids based on their attitude before the season even started.
I think that goes really well into what we covered in that first podcast, which everybody could listen to still, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube.
Check it out.
Check it out. Anyway, we talked about a little bit about your presentation to your teammates, right, is going to go a long way, like such a long way. And I think that's a perfect example.
Yeah. And then there's the flip side. Like my roommate, we were in playoffs, and my other roommate actually got hurt, and they were debating who to put in the lineup, and guys were vouching for my roommate because he was just like such a good guy and like deserved to play. So the captains went in there and told coaches, hey, blah 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 should play this game, and they put him in the lineup because of guys vouching for him because he's a good guy and he deserved it.
I love it. I think that those are, you make some great points in there. Now, I think we'll shift on to a little bit same topic because I think that this actually ties in there.
Mm-hmm. We can tie it all.
When you're out of the lineup, the last person the coach wants to be hearing from
Fact.
is your advisor
or parent.
Or parent.
But advisor,
you should learn how to communicate and go right into that coach, and you need to talk with them non-emotional later on. Mm-hmm. However, the advisor situation, right? There's a lot of people out there that are claiming to be advisors and advise all these people. Jack, I want to know your opinion on advisors first. I'll then give my opinion, and I want you to tell the people, do I need one? If so, when? If not, why?
Okay. So I've had experiences with the advisor, but it wasn't we weren't paying him. He was just getting off the ground, so he was like helping me. But it was kind of a different situation because I was stuck on a team where they wouldn't trade me, so I needed like help getting off the team. And an article was written. I'll get into it another day, but because I want to focus on like if you need one or not. So I think there's a certain player at like the U16 level. Not even at the U16 level, maybe like the junior level, who is like a really talented kid, right? Like unbelievable. He's probably playing in the USHL and stuff. And for him, I think I could understand why a player like that might need an advisor in terms of figuring out all these schools. Because if you have 30 schools coming to you, offering you all these commitments and stuff, and you need to sort it out, he might have, and these are usually probably like high-end advisors, they might have insight on these different schools, what they're about and stuff. But this is like a high-end player who's getting a lot of things thrown at him, and that maybe him and his parents can't manage himself, right? And usually they're not paying that advisor. It's usually whatever, some contract if he goes pro or whatever. But for the average player, say like for myself, I personally do not think you need an advisor. I think you can do almost as much as some of these advisors can do themselves. And I think it actually looks better when you're doing it from your own standpoint and not having someone else reach out for you. One, because you never know that advisor's reputation with anyone. You know, he might not have any connections, or he might leave a bad taste in a bunch of people's mouths. So when he goes and reaches out to coaches for you, now it kind of looks bad on you. So I think if you're just, I don't know, middle of the road AAA player, maybe a little bit above, I do not think you need advisor. I think you can do everything on your own. What do you think?
Now this, I could probably talk an hour on this.
I know,
but,
me too.
But there's a couple of things that I definitely want to cover. One would be, I think that while an advisor may be valuable to some players in specific situations, I think that the average player is better off creating valuable relationships with their coaches and having good coaches and using their guidance and mentorship in their decision making, as well as your parents.
Yeah.
Now, totally second, there is some degree of the elite hockey player where they may need an advisor in the communication process with Division I schools at a young age because of the NCAA rules. I understand that. However, I still think that if you have a valuable coach that you trust and his hockey experience is up there too, not necessarily playing, but just working and coaching, right? That can go just as much of a long way. Now, as you move up in hockey, the advisor role becomes more and more valuable. For example, my roommate who's now playing at North Dakota, right? He doesn't have he doesn't have an advisor. He's made it to North Dakota hockey without an advisor. Now, in his steps to reach a pro contract, right? That's where an advisor is going to come in pretty handy because you need one of those to obtain one of those contracts. Yeah. Now, I do see the benefit, right? And I do see the business model from advisors, right? That if you are able to talk to someone knowledgeable who has connections, right, they may be able to land you in certain spots, right? That would be a pro. Yeah. Now, a con would be I'm now paying somebody $3,000 a year or less or more. That's probably around what it is, 2,700
Mm-hmm.
for a couple emails to be sent out, right? I don't think
Yeah.
that's necessary for the average player. I really don't.
Yeah. I think if you are like debating whether you want to use an advisor or not too, I think it would be valuable to have your coach talk to the advisor. Maybe say you're moving out of U16 so you're not with that coach anymore, or like you're moving out of U18 so you're not with that coach anymore. But he's still an asset to you. Like, you've built that good relationships to him, so you're able to maybe use him for something like this. I would recommend like having him talk to them, like have someone knowledgeable in hockey be able to throw this advisor tough questions, see if he can answer them. Because if you're the real deal advisor, I mean, you should be able to handle these questions. And
We've had the discussion before, right? If you're a good player, teams are going to find you, whether that's
mm-hmm.
finding a U16 program, or that's finding a junior program, or that's finding a college, right? If you want a short, simple answer after all the stuff that me and Jack have thrown with you, find coaches that you trust,
Yeah.
right? Value their opinion, discuss it with your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make your decisions that way.
Yep.
And when it's time to sign for a pro contract, right? Find your advisor. But if you're 14 years old, you don't need to be paying somebody $17,000 a year to send out a couple emails. It's obviously an exaggeration.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you nailed it right on the head there. See, I didn't really have when I was playing. I only played 1 year at AAA, so I didn't. And the coaching, he was a really good guy. I liked him and stuff, but I didn't really have that great of a relationship with him. So it wasn't like I could fall back on him for him to help me. So I just used myself. So I think that's a good point that you brought up about utilizing a coach who you can build a relationship and trust, because they are, especially at that level, like they have connections. They know junior teams, they know college coaches, they're very well connected in that bubble. So using him as an asset is huge at that age.
And they know your game.
True. True.
Sometimes as a young player, a little bit better than you do.
Oh
So like
yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're 15 years old, you may think you're an all-star rushing to two-way defenseman, but realistically,
Mhm.
maybe you're a stay-at-home guy,
Yeah.
right? He's able to now, or he or she is able to market that for you
Yep.
versus you now just being able to speak for yourself, for example. So I think that in total, and we just covered it, right? Use your coaches, use your family, right? They are pretty important people. They've shaped you into who you are
Mhm.
today,
Yeah.
in the decision-making process.
Right. And one more thing I'll add to that. We could probably just keep adding on and on.
Yeah.
But so you brought up another good point about your coach probably knows you better than you do in terms of a hockey player. So some of these advisors, some of these people assigned to these advisors, but the advisors only seen them play one time, one or
Or
two
not at
games,
all.
or right, or not at all. They just want their paycheck. So now they're reaching out on teams on your behalf, possibly in quotes lying about the type of player you are. So then if this team does give you an opportunity and the advisor totally gave them a wrong picture of the type of player you are, now their expectation of you is completely different than what you're coming in with. Versus if you go with a coach, he can be a little bit more transparent with the type of player you are, so they have a little bit better of an expectation of if you do get a chance to go in and play for them.
I would say the only thing that I would just want to highlight here, and it's important that if you were listening on TikTok where you're only getting clips of this,
Yeah.
right? These are me and Jack's opinions. There are advisors out there that I'm sure do a great job,
Yeah,
right?
completely agree.
I'm not talking, we're not talking poorly about advisors at all. In some experiences that I've had, like they are great at placing players places, like they are, right? But
Mhm.
it's my personal opinion and my personal experience and Jack's personal opinion, personal experience, where we're now sharing. And you
Yeah.
can take this information and you can compare it with somebody else who likes it. So
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Just do your research. If you're gonna go with an advisor, make sure you do your research. You feel comfortable with him, and you feel like he's gonna make a good decision for you and help you get to the correct teams and put you in a good place to play. Make sure you ask the right questions and do your research before you kind of just jump ship and commit to someone without talking to them too much. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So does that wrap up the hockey talk for today?
yeah, I think that does. I think that does. I think we got into a bunch of good stuff there. Some stuff that's really tricky to talk about because it's so situational and then, situational for each player. And then a lot of it can be mental too, which is a whole different animal in terms of dealing with your emotions and your mental state and then translating that. into, a ice hockey game. So I think we covered some really good topics. One thing I want to bring up to you, so now that we're off the hockey talk, so I got a question for you because I think about this quite often. I like, thinking of business ideas and stuff. If you were to open a restaurant, what type of restaurant would you open and why?
This is right up my alley. I have thought of this so much. Okay, now I have this book behind me. I don't really want to turn because my headphones are connected. It is called
Yeah.
Made from Scratch. It is by Kent Taylor, the late Kent Taylor. He passed away. He is the creator of Texas Roadhouse. So
Oh, I
I
love
read that.
Texas
It's
Roadhouse.
an amazing book, amazing book. The adversity he faced in that creation and what it has now become. I cannot recommend that book more. Now,
Wow.
that book made me think. I read that book a while ago. It made me think a little bit about, right, if I were to do a restaurant, what would I do? And here's my idea.
Oh no.
The restaurant's name, there's some issues with this. The restaurant's name is Movie Night. And
Okay.
you walk in and there's 4 quadrants of the restaurant, and each of them are that movie's themed. It's a bar restaurant.
Okay.
So if we're going Jurassic Park, like that's themed Jurassic Park. In that corner, they got it playing on the TVs. If it's Jaws, we got Jaws playing. Then the meals are Jaws themed in that area.
You got shark bites.
We got Shark Bite, like Shark Bite nachos or something. If we got maybe a Star Wars area, little lightsaber French fries, mozzarella sticks,
Lightsaber French fries.
and maybe we got like a sports one, maybe like a sports movie in there.
Remember
too.
the Titans? Remember the Titans?
Little ballpark nachos.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my idea. So then you could say like to your buddies, like, oh, like we're having a movie night. And now you're going to the movie night.
So the real question is, are you going to switch up these themes? Is that
this is the issue?
Yeah.
Because they can't go out on the decorations. Maybe you don't switch the themes, right? Maybe that's just the theme of the restaurant.
Just becomes iconic.
Yeah, but you know what? I thought that was a good idea. This adjusting of the themes would be an issue. Maybe it's monthly or quarterly. Like you got Jaws for a couple months. You got Jurassic Park for a couple months. Remember
Dude,
the Titans?
that's a lot of decorating in there. That's a lot of money spent.
It is a lot of money spent, but it's a lot of money earned, right? We're going to have a movie night, boys. What would yours be?
So I'm a big fan of these, and I think this is kind of how I like to cook in general. So I think it kind of relays well, and it's my favorite meal of the day. I would open up a breakfast brunch spot. One, because I love the pace of breakfast places. It's amazing how fast they're able to whip out food there. Like you order your food at a breakfast place and it'll be out in like 5 minutes sometimes.
Diner speed.
Diner speed. So I love that pace of breakfast places, and they're able to turn it over so fast. Like they can just keep turning these tables over and over again. So I just love the business model of a breakfast joint, and I love breakfast food. I'm really passionate about breakfast food. I actually make I think I've actually talked about this to someone before about opening up like a food truck or like a food stand somewhere that sells avocado toast. I make the best avocado toast with an egg on it. It's unbeatable. Little sourdough bread. I can't give the ingredients on the avocado mix. I won't give it away because it's unbelievable. It's pretty much patented. So I would love to do something like that.
Now I have an interesting add-on to this, right? So Subway, right? The model of Subway has been utilized now with a lot of different restaurants, right? You go to one side, you order through. Yeah. So Subway, you got your sandwiches. Panda Express is the same model with Chinese food. Yep. Chipotle is the same model with Mexican food.
Hey, real quick. I watched Sebastian's little skit today on Chipotle.
So funny. It's great. So Chipotle Mexican food model.
Yep.
I don't know if they have an Italian one. I think they definitely do with that model. Do they have a Subway model breakfast joint? For example, I got wraps with eggs, sausage, veggies, maybe some pancakes as well as I go down that line, like Portillo's almost.
Yeah, that's true. You know who does do that in a sense, and I think it's only at the airport, is Qdoba does that in the airport. They make breakfast burritos.
See, this would be,
but they don't have like pancakes and sausage. That would be a great idea.
Maybe. Is there any morning movies? I could have a little, like, what would be a movie I could play at movie night and have breakfast burritos?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Does that Breakfast Club? The Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
I feel like that's right up my alley.
Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
I love it. Okay, so now right here's something and then we're moving away from restaurants. We are moving into a sensitive topic that I am now currently facing. What is up with people needing to comment on everybody's haircut?
Is that why you got a hat on right now to hide it?
I always wear a hat to begin with. I think that's part of my coaching style is wearing a hat.
Yeah, but it's kind of good style.
Whenever you have a haircut,
yeah.
First of all, I remember a little side note here. Sidney Crosby on Spittin' Chicklets, he used to say that the guys on the Penguins when he was a rookie would make so much fun of him for getting haircuts, he wouldn't get haircuts. Regardless. Hockey guys do it, right, as playful banter, but it's not just that. Like, you go into, like, I don't know, the supermarket after you get a haircut, and now the person that's swiping your groceries like, oh my God, you got a haircut. It's like, yeah, I did.
And I don't know what to say. People say, oh, you got a haircut. Like, what do you say back to that?
Thank you. I don't know. I did.
I guess so. Whenever guys would walk into the locker room at in college, and someone would come in with a new haircut, like 5 guys would go up to the guy and be like, "Hey, we'll get the guy.
Yeah, we'll get him.
We'll get him.
We'll get him."
You'll be like, "Well, you know the joke now, like you obviously, but like someone who doesn't know it, and they'll be like, "Who are we getting?" And we'll be like, "We'll get the guy who cut your hair."
You know, it's a good one too. It's a good one that I've heard too. This is a really good one. If somebody gets a haircut and they look like somebody else, like say for example, like me and you get the same haircut, like a third party, so like another person would be like, "Oh, like did you and Jack get the 2-for-1 special?" That's a good chirp. That's a really
that is a good chirp. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. I don't know why people feel the need to comment on things like that. I'm personally, I feel like people are already kind of self-conscious that they got a haircut. You don't need, not that they're self-conscious, because some people probably love their hair after they get a haircut, but like it just doesn't need to be brought up.
Now, do you make conversation with the hairdresser during your haircut?
Oh, I battle with this all the time because I'm not really into small talk. Like those casual conversations. I'd rather you just cut my hair, but then sometimes it's nice to maybe build a little relationship with them if you're going to keep going back to the same person.
Yep.
But do you? I try to keep it minimal.
I would say I try to keep it. It depends, right? When I was at college, I had the same people like pretty frequently, so like they kind of knew me. But now it's like I'm doing like right now my job's kind of complicated, right? A graduate assistantship, like you're coaching, you're in school, so they're like oh, like how was work? Well, I was like
question mark.
I was actually in school, but like I'm also working, so it's kind of complicated. Yeah. The only thing that I definitely didn't try to do was like during the COVID time when I had a mask on and they were cutting my hair, that communication was like a little too much to handle.
So when I was during COVID, my buddy was like, dude, let me cut your hair. Because we were at home. I was in college. I was, doing school at my parents' house. And he's like, let me cut your hair. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I don't really care. It's COVID. Like, no one's going to see it really. It was like right at the start, like 2 weeks in. We probably shouldn't even been hanging out. But he cut my hair with like a 2 all around. It was so rounded. And then he messed up the sideburns. So I had no sideburns. It was straight on with my ear.
That's tough. That's a
tough one. I walked around with that for a month. Not that I walked anywhere, but
that's a tough one.
I'll never let that happen again.
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Does that wrap up episode 3 of the No One Told Me Hockey podcast?
I sure hope so, because on Fletcher Feynman's East Coast time, it is now 12:45 in the morning, and he needs to get some sleep because he has a big day tomorrow. I can already see it in his eyes. They're slanting a little bit. He's getting tired.
I do have a big day tomorrow. It's one of my good teammates' birthdays tomorrow. I'm headed into Boston tomorrow evening after practice for a birthday dinner, which I'm very excited for. It is his 26th, maybe? 25th birthday.
All right. Fair.
25th
nice.
birthday.
Well, that'll be fun. You better get some sleep. So everyone, check me out on TikTok at HockeyAid. You can also check me out on Instagram at the same handle. If you have any questions for either of us, you can shoot me a DM on TikTok or Instagram, and you can also email me if you click the link in my bio. This is episode number 3 of the No One Told Me Hockey podcast with myself, Jack, and my boy Fletcher over there. You got any last regards for the people?
I love it. No, I would say check Jack out on TikTok. Listen to us, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon podcasts, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
YouTube. And lastly, be safe out there. I like that. That's a good little closing. Be safe out there.
Let's go. All right. I'll talk to you later, man.
See ya.
See ya.